Hi.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Oh, good. I'm gonna move my camera up a little bit. We have a few people. While we're waiting for people, I just wanted to. This is our first live stream for Looking from Heart. This is Far From Timid's weekly series, and it's really about, in quarantine, it's really an opportunity for all of us to fall in love again with our work, our life, and our purpose. And, we're interviewing people, these icons that we feel are far from timid and have done that. And so I'm so honored to have Geoff Cottrill here. And I followed Geoff for so long. I know him through LinkedIn. And I've just been following your career for so long. And you were the most recently the SVP at Coke, and before that you were the CMO of Converse. You were also the president of Mullen Lowe, and you have this amazing, and of course Procter and Gamble, which is for any marketer is a great stint. A lot of teachings there. But anyway, so I'm just honored to have you. Thank you.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I think the first thing that I really need to know is what your quarantine song is. What are you listening to? That's kind of is there one musician, or are you changing it up every day, or what?
Well, I'm changing it up every day. One of my daughters is a musician, so she plays new music all the time, and I'm constantly hearing actually new music coming out of her bedroom all the time. If you hear anything in the background, it might be her. But I'm really loving the new Haim record. Their new album is great. The song "The Steps" is just, to me, one of the best songs of the summer. I love that band. I love what they stand for, what they've done, their energy. So I've been listening to that a lot.
2 or 3 girls, right?
It's three sisters. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. I think I've been listening. I don't know why I've been listening to a lot of Bob Dylan.
Nice.
And because he's just, I don't know, there's one of his songs where he's searching for home. I don't know, and he talks about how his whole career, that's why he's doing what he's doing, is because he's always been searching for home. So I don't know.
That's cool. Yeah, I love Dylan. Yeah, the other night it had just finished raining. It was still sort of raining, and I put the top down in our car and had the Haim record just cranked. And I drove around for an hour just to get out of the house and to get some fresh air in my head. So
I love that.
Yeah, it's great. So I'll check out some Dylan today.
Yeah, and Lizzo.
Oh yeah,
that's an old song, but I've been biking around New York with her playing. So has anything changed from a management style, working from home? What kind of habits have you had to sort of modify, or how has it changed? I guess I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think first and foremost, it was pretty weird, because you used to be working from home. You kind of had this guilt where you thought everyone at the office thought you were playing hooky. Well, he's working from home. It's not really working. So the whole working from home concept to start with was a little bit weird and a little bit funky. And then, we all had to quickly learn how to Zoom and Skype and IG Live. And
Totally.
It was just weird to always see yourself on camera on your own screen. So that got a little bit weird. But I'd say, if anything, you have a lot more time to think. It's amazing. I realized how much time I was spending between where I needed to be and where I wanted to be. I was always running to a meeting or in traffic, and just now I'm much more slowed down. I'm much more focused. I'm actually much more relaxed and more in the moment than I think I've ever been, which feels pretty good. So I hope this working from home thing continues on some level as we sort of get out of this pandemic at some point.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that stillness, as a creative, I think that stillness to really be in your own mind fully without total distractions is really, really important. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned the most. And I'm trying to like, I write it down actually, like what it feels like when I'm in that moment, because I want to maintain that forever. You know, like the amount of work that you get done when you're in that frame of mind is just so incredible. And it's honest. It's the most honest kind of work that you're doing. So
Definitely. It's funny, the first couple of months, I don't remember ever being as tired as I was at the end of a day, because you were literally all day on video conferences from one topic to the next, to the next, to the next. And the amount of concentration it takes, and maybe I'm telling myself that I don't concentrate hard enough, but the amount of concentration it takes to be on video conferences and on those meetings for 9 or 10 hours in a day is exhausting. So you're right. The moment when you get to slow down, you get that quiet time to really think through a problem or come up with an idea.
But this is not a conference call, by the way. This is just like fun morning. This is like fun morning coffee.
Totally. Got my Diet Coke. I'm good.
Hanging out with Geoff. And by the way, everybody, we're going to leave some time for you guys to ask questions. So, but just so you guys know, you know, when I was like stalking you before this interview, I read a bunch of things, and we can't cover it all today, but I think just even learning more about you for this interview, I just felt so inspired. But you did one thing as a leader that was really interesting, which is like you left one empty chair to represent the customer when you were doing your meetings. And I'm just curious today if there was, you know, the virtual, you know, empty chair for the customer, like what filter do you think brands need to have, you know, marketing amidst like this profound cultural shift? We have the pandemic, we have racial inequality. There's so much right now, and the customer really is struggling. And so what else, what kind of filter, in addition to the existing filters, do you think we need to have?
Well, a couple things. One, I think as a marketer, you know, your fundamental job, and I think a lot of marketers, we get this wrong, but our fundamental job is to be the person in the room, at the leadership table, in the boardroom, that is representing the voice of the consumer. Not just representing what it is you want to sell the consumer, but representing the voice of the consumer. So I would often leave an empty chair in a conference room, particularly during big meetings when we're going to get into some kind of meaty topic. And then oftentimes at the end of the meeting, I would say, you know, hey, I left this blank chair. Let's just imagine that one of our consumers was sitting in here during this entire meeting. And let's assume that she was in here and she was listening to everything that we said. And she heard the way we talk to one another. She heard what we talk about. She saw how sometimes we don't really respect each other. And then she witnessed the fact that we didn't bring her up one time during this meeting. Do you think that if that actually happened, that she would ever buy anything from us again? And it's a sobering moment to realize that you are the representative of the consumer. So you have to act and behave and treat people like the consumer is always there with you, because they are. And the minute you forget that, the minute you let that go, the minute that gets, you know, pushed to the side, is the minute you start to lose the plot of why you're there to begin with. So I think, you know, empathy for the consumer more than ever, and humility that, you know, we as marketers get to enjoy a lot of things. You know, we go on nice vacations, and sometimes we drive nice cars, and we live in nice houses. And we should sometimes look around and remember the reason you had that beautiful vacation is because there's a bunch of consumers that bought your products. And that's the thing you should be grateful for. So being grateful, being humble, and then having empathy for how they're feeling and what they're thinking about, I think is the most important thing.
I love that. And I think since social media came about and we were able to like listen, for example, you know, I think like usually like the brief, you know, I think before social media, the brief, you know, people would use that persona of their customers for like a year. And then as social media came about, I know I would always be like, we have to check in with our customer every 3 months. Like we can't just use this sort of stereotype of here's our target audience. But I think it's even more true, like what you're saying is like it's every meeting, you know, because the customer, their needs change so quickly now, and especially right now, the tides are changing every single day, and you really, the only way to stay relevant, I think, right now is to be tuned in every single day. You cannot, you just have to be on right now, and like you said, be very humble. I think it's a really big challenge right now, and I have a lot of empathy for the customer, but also the marketer. You know, they have to really all cylinders need to be on right now, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we need to be more in tune than we've ever been, but we also need to make sure that we're deeply and fully considering the context of our consumers' lives, and what they're feeling and what they're thinking. We have a job to do. We have to sell things. We have to make money. We have to hit our numbers. I totally get that. But, you know, you have to know when to not speak as a marketer or as a brand. You know, I've always defined marketing, you know, they don't teach this in Harvard Business School, but, you know, it's the science of understanding people and the art of knowing when to shut your mouth and, you know, not advertise or not speak, or, you know. And I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, the first, I don't know, 3 weeks or so, you know, there was I won't name the brand. I'm not going to name any brands.
Yeah.
But there was a brand that came on. It was a car company, and they were telling me how they knew how I felt and that they were in it with me, and that they were going to offer me extended loan terms. And I was like, oh, I'm worried about my family and whether or not my family is going to get this virus. And you're offering me extended loan terms? Like, what are you even thinking about? Why are you in my living room right now? Or why are you on my screen? And I just remember thinking that's an example of like just tone deafness. Just, you don't understand my perspective. And until you do, you know, be careful what you say and how you say it to me, the consumer.
Yeah, I think the humanity of brands, I think that's what is confusing for brands oftentimes, is they're like, do we really have business? You know, is it really our business to be that personal with our consumers? And yes, it actually, it is your business, because you need to figure out how you want to fit into their life. And I think that's the confusing thing, is that brands need to be human. And
Yeah.
if you are our friend, if you want to get close to the customer and you want them to be loyal to you, then the kind of loyalty that you need to show them today is, you want this, you know, brands need to be take a role, I guess, a role of, I wouldn't say friend, but they need to be human. And I think brands need to get more comfortable with being human, whether it's B2C marketing or B2B, it doesn't matter. And I think that's going to be I think I'm so excited for where we are right now. I love the work that I'm able to do right now. It's so, I mean, I feel like it's what we're truly meant to do. I think all the creatives and marketers right now, this is why we got into this business, is to be there for the customer. And this is our opportunity to do that now. And it's so inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, our job, I think, is to serve our consumers first and foremost. And, you know, I, for one, I wish that brands would stop trying to be my friend.
Oh, okay.
They're not my friend. Like, if you're my friend, then you're my friend. Where are you when I'm feeling down? And when are you when I'm feeling up? You're always there when you want me to buy something.
Right.
But like, in the times like that, I want you to understand, I want the people behind the brands to be human and to understand the context. But, you know, I'm not going to be friends with a car company. A car company's not, I mean, like, you tell me we're in it together, and I'm like, no, we're not actually in this together.
Right.
You're a car company, and I've got a family, and I know you have employees, but then show me the faces and the voices of the people behind the brand, and then it starts to become a little bit more interesting. But I've been in so many meetings at so many different companies where we're like, you know, we're a friend to the consumer, and I'm like, well, what does that mean? You know, like, friendship is like not superficial, it's real. So, you know, that's a real commitment if you really want to be my friend.
So transparency. So right, like don't try to be a friend. That's really interesting. So don't try to be a friend, but what's more important is trust.
Yeah,
It's transparency. Like don't try to be my best friend right now. I just need you to be honest with me. I need you to what can you do for us? What can you do for me right now? How can you truly help me right now?
Yeah.
I like that. That's yep.
Or if I don't need you right now, be okay with that.
Yeah.
And respect that and show me that you respect that. And believe me, when I do need you, I'll come running. But you know, don't do the oversell thing. And you know, I mean, come on, like a month into the pandemic, we saw 25 brands do exactly the same commercial.
Totally.
With different visuals. And it was like, oh my God, look at us. Look at us marketers. And I'm not separating myself from the pack. I'm just as guilty. But the idea of like, oh my gosh, like how could all of these brands that on every other day of the year are completely different from one another, even in different categories, how could we all make the same ad? Like it's kind of remarkable. It's a little bit, to me, a little bit superficial. And as a consumer watching them all, I'm like, oh, here we go again. You're in it with me too? That's amazing. Thank you. Oh gosh, you're a toilet tissue. You're in it with me too. You understand how I feel? Like, come on.
Right. And I think words, right. It's not words. It's also action. And I think that takes a little bit of time. I think there's a few, you know, I was talking to a marketer, and you know, there was a very complex brand. So they had like the franchise group and the consumer group. And this was like the franchise group. And, you know, they wanted to be a little bit more patient. They felt rushed to get into, you know, oh, I have to say something. I have to say something right now. And I think it's okay to be patient. I think it's okay to take your time and figure out how can you really be there for your customer. And,
yeah.
and how does it make sense for the brand? And I think taking that time versus rushing to market, putting on an Instagram Black Lives Matters stamp on, you know, it's really, and we're going to get into this. This is why you're here, because we're going to talk about, you know, not sponsoring culture, but being in culture. So
yeah.
So what, you know, in your career, what was like your biggest professional or personal like aha moment? I guess where you kind of maybe it went for like the lights turned on and you were just, I don't know, the lights just turned on.
Yeah. I've had a bunch of them. And I mean, not to, you know, separately, I just was on the team at Coke that launched a new brand called Aha. So I had a lot of aha moments in the last year, and they've been all great. It's a great product, by the way. But a big aha moment in my career was when I got to Converse and, you know, was named the CMO there. You know, if I'm honest, and I'm, you know, I try to be as honest as I can be. I got there and was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm not qualified for this job. I'm not ready for this job. I'm going to fail miserably at this job. My recruiter even told me not to unpack my bags because I wasn't going to be there that long. So you come into this new job and you think, oh gosh, I'm not going to be the person that like knows it all. And, because I don't know anything. So I'm just going to kind of bluff my way the first couple of months. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. I'll figure this out. And the first 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 months in, I went to China, and our team in China was working with some punk rock bands in Beijing, like punk rock in Beijing, like the two things that I never thought I would ever think about ever coming together. And I went to this club, this punk club that was run by a former professor at Columbia. And I've never been in a room that has been so crazy, so intense, and so just incredibly like energizing in my life. Wow. And I remember leaning against the back wall thinking, this must be what it was like in London back in the day and at CBGB's in New York. But it was incredible. 2 levels in the bar, someone jumping off the 2nd level into the crowd. And I was like, this is insane. So the next day we met with the bands and we sat with them, and we had a translator. They didn't speak English very well. And we were talking to them about their life and about music and about, you know, their dreams. And they were telling us about, you know, their desire to play. And I was just so interested in the punk rock scene. So I said to them, hey, if we could do something to help you, like the team and I were there, what would that look like? And they were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, we could spend some of our marketing dollars to do something for you and with you. Like, what would that look like? And after a couple of minutes, one of them said, we've always wanted to play our music outside of Beijing. And the team, we're all from the US and from the UK, looked at each other like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Well, we've never played our music outside of Beijing. And we're like, well, what are you talking about? Why not? Well, we have no way of getting to other places, and there's no touring infrastructure at the time in China. And we're like,
Wow.
holy cow. So this was during the Olympics, mind you, right before the Beijing Olympics. And so we bought a bus.
That's
and
awesome.
we put 2 bands in this bus, and we put cameras in the bus, and we shot a documentary film, and we sent them to 5 cities around China, and they played shows, and they like stopped for gas, and they got out and played on street corners, and little kids came running up, and it was this amazing story of an artist journey that could have been universal. We shot it in Chinese, and it was subtitled in English. We gave somewhere about 500,000 copies of it away in China. And we won a big advertising award from Ad Age for one of the campaigns of the year during the Beijing Olympics, and it had nothing to do with the Olympics. But what happened was that moment was, whoa, all you have to do is ask what you should do to help. In this case, we looked at these punk rock bands as our consumers, not as assets we could borrow equity from. We were like, these kids are already wearing our shoes. They're super cool. They're doing something interesting. They're chasing their own dreams. And when we said, what could we do to help? They were like, you could do this. And we're like, aha, like, that's amazing. Like, thank you. And we did it, and it worked. And then we came back to Brooklyn, and we met with a bunch of artists. Some were famous, some were up and coming. We sat with Matt and Kim, a couple other people, and we said, if we could do something here in New York, what would that look like? And they said, we have no place to rehearse. I remember Matt and Kim saying, our rehearsal slot is in a basement with a 5-foot high ceiling. My head is in the rafters, and our rehearsal time is 9:30 in the morning. And then he said, do you have any idea how hard it is to rock out at 9:30 in the morning? And I was like, no. And he's like, it's impossible. So we need a rehearsal space. And then the younger artist said, I'm a bartender or I'm a barista, but I'm in a band. I can't get signed until I get a demo, but I can't afford a demo until I get signed. So I'm stuck. I'm a bartender. So we were like, so you need a place to record? And they're like, yeah, that would be amazing. So we built a studio. And like I said, we asked them what we should do. They told us. And then we put over 3,000 artists. We ended up building 3 of them. And it was one of these things where all you have to do is ask these people that you care about how you can help them. How can I be useful as a brand? And and as a result, our Facebook community, when back when Facebook mattered,
Yeah.
and you could still do organic stuff on Facebook, we became the second biggest brand on Facebook behind Coca-Cola, and we didn't spend any money at all on Facebook. It was all the artists thanking us and doing things and posting things from our studio. So it was remarkable. And those 2 things changed everything for Converse. And it was because we asked a couple questions.
I think that when you tell that story, I think about how marketing and creatives, we talk about, oh, well, we need to be where the customer is, right? We need to be where they are. And it's not, we don't need to be there where they are so that we can show them an asset. We need to be where they are with adding value, how we can help them. And I think, this is such a shift in the conversation. Like, I really hope that this kind of thinking becomes part of our default thinking in marketing. I think with AI and AR and VR, with technology like that, we have to. We don't. It's not about let's be where they are so we can show them a point of purchase or
Right.
or show them an ad. I think it's really like being a part of their life. And somehow, I mean, all these artists that you're helping, you know, I mean, of course, you know, we're running a business, right? Converse needs to make money. So,
of course,
but the value, you get hundreds of lifetime customers, right? You know what I mean? Like that, those marketing dollars are well spent versus the millions of dollars that you might have spent, I don't know, you know, doing digital billboards or pop-ups or
right,
whatever it is. So
right.
I think you were where the customer was, but you added value to their life in a very meaningful way.
Yep.
So I think that.
Yeah, we used to say we had 4 things that we focused on, and there are 4 principles that I've tried to carry with me wherever I go. One was celebrate your audience, not yourself. So like the minute you start making things about you, you're off. Second was be useful. Do things that help your consumers. Do things with or for, not just to. The third one was own, don't rent, meaning don't sponsor stuff. Create your own platforms. And the fourth one was celebrate the differences in people. Celebrate the differences, not the similarities, but the beautiful, messy differences that make up the diverse world that we live in. Those were the 4 things that we tried to focus on and use. And, you know, you don't buy shoes every day. So if I asked you to buy shoes every day, you would say, I already bought some. And I'm like, yeah, but you want to buy some shoes? And you're like, I just bought some yesterday. And I learned a valuable lesson from Nike. I think one of the greatest things, one of the greatest marketing moves, it's completely underrated move too, by the way, is, you know, years ago, Nike would say, you want to go running? Or you want some running shoes? Do you want some running shoes? Do you want some running shoes? And you're like, I already have running shoes. And they turned the corner and said, hey, we know you got running shoes. Do you want to go running? Let's go.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And
I have goosebumps right now.
Right. They created the Nike Running Club. Then all of a sudden now it's an experience. And you didn't even have to have Nike shoes to be invited into the experience. Then Nike Plus becomes a service that's tracking data, giving you data, adding value. And it's what you do between purchases to add value to someone's life will turn you to, when it's time to buy that product again, whoa, I'm going to buy into that. So to me, like the Nike Running Club, everything that they've done, the running clubs, the running events they do around the world, to me is a textbook for how brands should be thinking. And I was fortunate that Nike owned us. And I learned an awful lot from those folks in Beaverton about the way they think about engagement.
Right, like be a part of culture, make culture, right? Yeah. Like create culture. Don't watch it. Don't sit there and watch it and try to analyze it all the time. Like go and be a part of it.
Yeah.
Create something, you know. And I think I'm so excited. I really think that brands are going to be able to step up right now and be true marketers in a sense of being a part of culture. And I already feel that. I already feel like it's easier to pitch our clients ideas that we think will create culture. I think it's easier for them. They understand that it's not always about them. And I mean, it's sad that it's taking this cultural shift, but nonetheless, it's important, you know?
Yeah. I mean, another example is, you know, you think about, you know, brands want to, I hear brands all the time, we want to use music to, you know, connect with our consumers. And I stop them at use music. You want to use music. Like, no, that's the wrong sentence to begin with. And, you know, you think about, and this happens at every company. It's happened at every company I've ever worked at. And it happens at every company who does anything with music. There's a group of people that sit in a conference room and they say,
oh yeah, there we go.
Someone says, who embodies our brand? You put a list of musicians. We want to do something with music. You put a list of musicians up and then you all say, oh my gosh, this artist is the embodiment of our brand. We love this artist. We love what they do. We love what they stand for. That is somebody we should do something with. And then they'll have somebody, you know, that's their entertainment person or, you know, their agency person. Well, let's call that agent's manager. So we call that manager, hey, listen, brand X really loves your artist, really wants to work with them. Would it be amazing? Are you interested? Oh, we're totally interested. So then another meeting gets called. The person, the agency comes back, sits with the client, says, they're totally down. They're in. This is going to be amazing. So then we run to the whiteboard and we immediately list out what we need. We need, okay, we're going to need Instagram Live. We're going to need them to post on Twitter. We're going to need a photo of them at our press event holding our product or wearing our product in front of the step and repeat. And then we're going to need a press day interviews. We're going to need all these things. And then the first meeting with the actual artist, you show up with your list of things. This is what we need. And then suddenly it's like the artist is like, what? I thought you liked who I am and what I stood for and what I do. Like,
Right.
but the approach should be, hey, listen, we really do love you. We want to work with you. What should we do together? Versus here's the script. We need you to stand over here. We need you to dance a little bit, sing a song, and, you know, hold my product or wear my product. It's so crazy that you have this massive opportunity right in front of you with an artist that you've identified, that you love, that you just turn into a transaction. And then at the end, you're like, well, that artist was a real pain to work with. And you're like, well, yeah, because of us, not because of the artist, because we put all these obligations. And sure, I get that we need to get things for our money, totally get the transaction. But if you do things with the artist to contribute to culture, you're not going to need to throw a brand party with a fancy VIP list. Your brand is going to get invited to their party with all the really right people there. And they're going to say, dude, this brand was cool to work with because we did this together versus I just finished this commercial with XYZ brand.
Right. Like experience over assets. It's like, what kind of experience can we create together versus like, what kind of assets am I going to like, it's a really big mind shift. I mean, you need to write, did you write a book? Are you writing a book?
I have not written a book yet.
I think you should write a book. I'm not joking, but like, I'm serious. Like, I mean, there are a lot of marketing books, but what I'm trying to say is your insights, it's the subtle language. There are these very subtle languages that change, that really can shift the way that we are thinking about how to market to customers. I think are really important. It's not, you know, and it's so obvious. It's so simple. That's what I'm trying to say is that, anyway, so you need to write a book, but
all right,
you know.
I may need your help. But yeah, it is simple. It is very simple, and we overcomplicate it so much. We think that people care about our brands more than they actually do. We think as brands that we're really important, and in some cases we are, but in a lot of cases we're not that important in a consumer's lives. And it's common sense. It's just,
Oh.
Sorry, my phone keeps ringing.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. So preach, like church to that. That's exactly, I love it. So back to quarantine a little bit, you know, I think, you know, I've been doing like more cooking. I've like, you know, done more clean, you know, there's and certain skills that I've sharpened. Like I became like a better designer, you know, because I've had more time to really like think, what skills or what things have you been able to like sharpen or really focus on that make you feel really like good about that make you feel good, that you're happy about?
Well, so I recently retired from the company that I was working for. I retired from Coke on June 1st. The greatest honor of my life was working there. The people that were there, it's just an amazing place, amazing brands, ridiculously smart people. It was just time for me to do something else. So for the past 6 or 8 weeks, I've been fishing down in the Gulf of Florida. So I'm working on my fishing skills. And I am really, like I said earlier in the conversation, I'm really working on being more present in the moment. and not always worried about like where I need to be, what I need to do. And I'm just letting things come. And for the past 5 or 6 weeks, found all these, there's been a bunch of new music tech companies that have asked me to help advise them. And I'm spending a lot of time just helping. And it's been really, really fun.
I love that. I love that. I got to try fishing. I haven't, I think I would like it. Yeah, I just never, I don't know. My dad never took me fishing. I don't know. We went camping, but not.
Well, there you go. Camping's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, camping's. I want to go camping. That's like one of my hashtag goals is like I need to go camping soon. I was supposed to do that last summer, but I didn't.
You got to go. My daughter went 2 weeks ago up in North Georgia, up to where these waterfalls were, and she said that just had the best time ever. So you got to go.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. I really am. I in August I have like I'm gonna take off 2 weeks. I'm gonna just I don't know.
Do it.
Do it. So this is something I'm kind of and just for people that have joined in the past like 15 minutes, I just want to let you know that around 10:45 we're going to open it up to Q&A, or 10:40 we'll open it up to Q&A. So I'll kind of like ask any questions that I see in the feed. And just know, you guys, this is my first live stream.
Mine too.
So, yeah. So Geoff is, this is, we're taking our maiden voyage together. So
yes, it is.
So one of the things that I'm very passionate about right now is like brand awareness versus performance marketing, and I think brand awareness matters more now than ever, right? Like brand awareness is just so important. And I just, how can silos, brands are often very siloed. And so, how can sort of these silos collaborate more efficiently to unify on their voice and their vision? Because I think that's the biggest stumbling block right now. We have to, brands have to be nimble, but they just have all these silos that often are redundant and inefficient.
Yeah, agree. I mean, I think the headline is collaborate or collapse, as far as I'm concerned. Like you have to collaborate. You have to align. If you can't get aligned inside your building, you should not have the expectation that a consumer is going to think you're aligned outside your building. The consumer sees everything, and the consumer sees the inconsistencies in how you treat me, what you say to me, how one day you're this and the next day you're this. Like, you have to think about, again, it's our frame of reference. We get in, we have our jobs. This is my part of the team. This is your part of the team. We do our jobs and we each execute our things, but we don't think that the person at the end of the line sees both of those things. And one day when you're talking about this and the next day you're acting like this, they're going to start to think you're just a little bit crazy. I'll give you a quick example, a story. So you and I meet at a dinner party for the first time. And first of all, I hate dinner parties, but my wife's got me to go to the dinner party. And when I come into the dinner party, I have to decide what kind of guest I'm going to be. Am I going to be a good guest? Am I going to be a bad guest? And that's a choice for me. So let's say I choose to be a good guest, and I'm in the dinner party, and all of a sudden we meet and we start talking, and I'm like, oh my God, we have a common interest. Let's just say it's cars, making it up. And we start having this amazing conversation about cars. And we are like deep in it. And my wife walks by and I'm like, oh my God, I just met my new best friend. We have the same passion for cars. This is incredible. Oh my God, I'm having so much fun. And then we go back to talking about cars, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I say, you know what? Flowers are really pretty. and you go, what? And I go, yeah. And then we start talking about cars again. And you think in the back of your mind, all right, maybe I missed the jump over to this other topic, but I'm going to keep going because we're having a good conversation about cars, and we're talking about cars again. It's amazing. And then all of a sudden I say, oh gosh, and one thing I forgot to mention is the ocean is very deep. And you're like, dude, you are crazy. And you are now looking for whoever you came to the party with, thinking, I got to extract me from this conversation because this dude's crazy. He doesn't have a narrative. He's jumping all over the place, and I don't know where he's going to go next, so I'm out of here. Brands do the same thing. Brands need to remember that they're in a constant, ongoing dialogue and conversation with their consumers, and that you need to have a narrative path of where you are, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there, versus an episodic approach to, today I'm going to talk to you about cars, tomorrow I'm going to talk to you about flowers, then I'm going to get right back to cars. Because I'm going to confuse you as a consumer. And that's not, my job's not actually to confuse you. My job is to serve you. And if all I'm doing is confusing you, then I'm not doing my job. I'm not going to get the results that I want, that I'm being held accountable to, because I'm not doing my job the right way. And it's just flipping it and thinking about it from their perspective.
Yeah, and I think that, I guess, when, I worked at big brands, I worked at agencies and big brands, and it is hard. Yeah, it's so simple what you're saying, and we have to do that. Everybody has to do that.
But we don't.
I think people like you are, you walk into a room, you're a customer advocate. That's what you are. I think, it'd be interesting to see, like, what kind of, what if, that was part of your employee review, right? Like, or what if, I think because people are afraid they're going to get fired, right? If they say, and so I think it would be very interesting if customers, if brands really started to rethink, their performance reviews, for example, that it's one of those things is how customer focused are you, and what have you done that is so customer focused? Because that's why we're here. We are in the service of the customer, end of story. So I think you are a unique leader like that. And I know a lot of great marketing leaders think like that, and they have to, but I think we need to raise the level of thinking in our industry. This needs to be not a unique situation. It needs to be something that, we understand that brands need to make money. We all understand that. It's not like, we're not saying one or the other. We're not saying you have to do one or the other. We're saying if you do this, if you are customer focused, you will make money,
I'm just suggesting that that's the path to make money.
Exactly.
The path to make money and to have a successful brand is to have a deep understanding of your consumer and serve them with products, experiences, services, whatever it is, but have the servant mindset. And a quick note to all you CMOs and senior marketing people, because you said a minute ago, people are afraid to get fired. You're going to get fired. Your book, the last page on your book that you're currently in ends with the last words, "You're fired."
Right.
So now I've told you how your story is going to end. And the question is, what are you going to put in the blank pages between where you are now and that moment? You can just flip blank pages and sit there and do the same old stuff everybody else has done, but the result is going to be the same thing, because all CMOs, like baseball coaches and football coaches, and ultimately it's your time to go. It's your time to do something else. It's nothing personal. It's just time. So, why not be focused on the consumer? Why not worry about them while you're there? And your life, your career, your experiences will be so much more satisfying by having that service mindset and getting yourself and your own ego out of the center of the conversation.
I love it, Geoff. So I think what's been interesting over over your whole career, I've been fascinated because you're so relevant, right? Like, from Converse to Coke, I just feel like a lot of the work that I've seen you do, like the Made for You campaign, just a lot is just so cultural and so of the moment. And it's important to stay modern. Like Rembo says, you got to stay modern. What do you attribute sort of your relevancy to? Like, how do you stay modern? How do you, what is that attributed to?
Well, first and foremost, I think I have my great agency partners along the way to thank, right? So agencies are there to be creative, but they're also there to give you context and to show you what's really happening in the world outside of the walls of your company. So agencies like Anomaly are directly responsible for a lot of my success. People like Cornerstone, the music marketing agency, directly responsible for my success and for my ability or appearance to be tapped into what's going on. Wyden & Kennedy has been a great partner of mine. And then I've got two grown daughters, one who's in the advertising world, who's a producer in Boston, who keeps me honest and keeps me up to date. And then I've got a daughter who's a musician, who's also, very tapped into what's going on. I read a lot. I try not to get stuck in, you tend to get stuck in a year of music and you're like, okay, this is my music. Yeah. And I try to purposely get outside of that and do that. So surround yourself with people who are interested in culture and you'll learn about culture. And don't surround yourself with people that are just trying to be the most interesting person in the room, because that's super, super boring to me. So I've always sought out the unheard voices. I'm a massive fan of street art. I've been collecting street art for years. The older I get, the more I'm just enjoying the new voices that are in the world. They're the ones that are going to change it for us. So
yeah, I think brands being a part of culture is a good segue into this is my second to last question. So I think, as a true marketer of culture brands like Converse and Coke, we covered some part of this, but you've been, you've gone beyond sponsoring culture. You've been creating culture. And so, I think brands do have a responsibility to the communities that they serve, not just a customer, but to the community of the customer. And so, I'm just wondering, right now, what would you tell brands right now in this moment that we're living in, what their responsibility is within the communities that they're serving? I think, I live in New York, there's every brand on every corner, you go, I don't know, everywhere around the world, like Coke, Coke is in, the Middle East, in Middle East, they're everywhere. So I think it's not just a responsibility to your customer, it's a responsibility to that community. So what would you say to brands and what their responsibility is?
Well, first and foremost, be present in the community that you're doing business in. If your home market is New York or Atlanta or Miami, Los Angeles, be visible as a company of people, not just a company of a brand name that sits behind a gate, but be actively involved. I was waiting, honestly, for someone during the social unrest that went on, the Black Lives Matter. I saw a lot of brands step up and write really big checks to help contribute, which I think is great. But I want more. I want them to write the check and specifically say, this is specifically what this money is going to accomplish. And then I want to see plans put in place, just like we have business plans, a plan put in place that we can track against to see if we're making that progress. So I want more accountability. I would have loved to have seen a company, and I know we're in the middle of COVID and there's lots of HR concerns but I would have loved to have seen a company of people, a couple thousand people, get together in a location in New York City and meet and hand out masks and march together as a company of people with faces and emotion and, show up at City Hall or the state capitol as a company of people so that the government officials can see that, oh gosh, they vote. And this is a company that is vastly diverse and completely aligned in our support of what's going on. So it would have been great. I think it would have been historic had a major company gotten all their employees in their headquarters city and did a peaceful protest march for equal rights, for justice together. That would have been remembered 50 years from now. And some companies did it on a smaller scale, and I give them credit for trying.
Sure.
A real statement that says we will not stand for this, and this is what we stand for, and we're going to march and walk together, arm in arm, all of us, to make a statement that not only does this brand think this, but all the people underneath that make the brand come to life, we believe this too.
Yeah, I think brands are soul searching right now, like in a sense of like, where do I fit in? How do I behave? How do I walk? Is this something that I have business doing? Yes, you have business doing this. And I
Exactly.
think, a long time ago, like there are a lot of brands of the past. I think, I think when the first idea of maybe advertising or branding, in the late 19th century, early 20th century, they were in effect doing those things that you're talking about. They were, creating things of value, being inside of the community. And I think we just need to, I think we all, I'm saying me too, we all have to come alive for our audiences. We have to come alive for the work that we do right now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, there's always, I work for Coca-Cola twice for a total of 11 years. They do it better than anybody. They are, their bottlers are local business people in local communities who are deeply connected to the local communities. The secret ingredient for Coca-Cola is the bottlers and the involvement that the bottlers have at the community level. I would just like to see more companies take a more active role in that. And when you think about modern day experiential marketing, because experiential marketing is a consumer experiencing your brand, I can't think of a better experience for a consumer than to see 5,000 people that work for the same company march down the street, all saying the same thing, standing for something. To me, that would be the most impactful experiential marketing that anyone could do in this day and age.
I love it, Geoff. So last question is really important, is what's your quarantine summer drink? Because I think everybody wants to know that.
Oh, everybody wants to know my quarantine. So every day about 6 o'clock, maybe 5:30 sometimes, I pour a Blanton's bourbon over one big cube rock, and I just sip it for the rest of the evening. So that's been my drink for a long time, and I wasn't going to change when quarantine started. So, but it has been fun having virtual happy hours with 25 people on a Zoom call. Super fun.
Everyone gets disgusted by my quarantine summer drink because it's called a calimocho. It's a Spanish. Well, I use Diet Coke, but it's Diet Coke and red wine, and it can be really shitty red wine.
Wow.
Bleep, shooty red wine. Bleep. Yeah, it doesn't. But it's called a calimocho. I discovered it when I was in the Basque Country, but it's kind of sangria-ish, but people are like, ew. I'm like, no, you have to try it. It's really, really good.
Yeah, any drink with Diet Coke in it is great.
So does anybody have any, I have leaving like a few minutes for any questions for anybody in the, in the audience. And if you don't have any, I don't know. No, we had like a good group. We had a lot of, we did a good live stream today, Geoff.
Yeah, it was fun.
We did really good on our first.
Check this. Now I've done this. I'm going to add this to my LinkedIn profile. Yeah.
There's so many questions there's so many things that I wanted to ask you, but as we continue to do this, again, everyone, this is our Far From Timid's Working From Heart series, and we're meeting people like Geoff, who are true icons. This is in branding and culture and design and marketing. And we're going to be doing this every other week. We'll be live streaming. So thank you for kicking this off. You've given us so much confidence. Here we got a question. How does one successfully present themselves as an artist or a brand? That's from Lieutenant Texano.
That's a great question. I think I think you got to find the people that are leading and running the brand. I think it's oftentimes good to go through the agency partner, because the agency partner typically is the one that brings you the content and the relevant content that you want. It also depends on the brand. If the brand is, has a person that's responsible for music, I think that's the best way in. Yeah, I think that those are the ways.
Yeah, and I think packaging yourself too. I know a lot of artists,
Yep.
they'll come to me and they'll be like, I'm a musician, and I'm like, well, are you packaged up? I had a conversation with someone a few weeks ago, and they're really successful in their field. They're a car racer, but nothing's packaged, right? They don't have,
Right.
and they need that. You need to be totally packaged up, right? You have to have your website with your music,
Yep.
Even a personal brand, maybe something that you care about. And make that evident so that
Yep.
instantly if you're trying to reach out to the brand or the agency, they understand very quickly in 3 seconds what you are all about. And I think that's the sort of the foundation.
I do too. And I think you just have to be careful that, you stay true to your art, and stay true to who you are, and don't let a company use you to do something that you don't want to do just because you think it's going to get you to where you want. Stay true to who you are. Stay true to your art, because that's really, at the end of the day, what matters. And, sell out's the wrong word, because I do think that brands can play a massively positive role in helping an artist develop their career. But, draw the line on what you will and won't do, and stick to that line. Don't compromise.
So we're going to have to close this out. We have 10 seconds remaining, but I really wanted to thank you. I'm so grateful that I got to meet you finally. And I just want to thank you for, being here today, and also